The Hegemony Council had existed for over 10,000 years. 7 species, representing the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, met in the ancient chambers of Kethvar to discuss threats to galactic order. They had seen empires rise and fall, watched countless species develop technology and join the galactic community in an orderly fashion. They had never seen anything like humanity. High Counselor Zethran of the Altarian species stood before the massive holographic display showing the human fleet. 3,000 vessels arranged in perfect formation, approaching hegemony space with obvious hostile intent. "They came," said Counselor Veltar, her scaled skin shifting colors with anxiety. "I did not believe they would risk war over a single individual." "The projections were clear," replied Counselor Thane, his 4 arms gesturing at the tactical displays. "Humans show unusually strong social bonding, but this response exceeds all models." High Counselor Zethran had lived for 800 years. He had guided the hegemony through dozens of crises, but the data streaming in from their observers was unprecedented. "Report from the Terran system," announced the communications specialist. "All human industrial capacity has been converted to military production. Their entire species appears to be mobilized." "That is impossible," stated Counselor Moran, his crystalline form pulsing with disbelief. "No species commits total resources to rescue a single member. The economic cost alone should prevent such action." But the evidence was overwhelming. Intelligence reports showed human colonies stripping their defense fleets to join the rescue mission. Agricultural worlds were sending their transport ships loaded with supplies. Even human pirates and criminals had abandoned their usual activities to volunteer for the fleet. "Perhaps we underestimated their emotional attachment to individuals," suggested Counselor Feltar. "It is not emotion," said Zethran quietly. "It is strategy." The other counselors turned to him in surprise. "Look at the composition of their fleet," he continued. "Yes, they have warships, but most of their vessels are converted civilian ships. Cargo haulers, research vessels, mining ships. They are not just coming to rescue their people. They are coming to stay." The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. This was not a rescue mission. It was an invasion. "Activate all defense protocols," ordered Zethran. "Alert our allied fleets. And send another transmission to the humans." The message went out across space on all frequencies. "Human fleet, you have violated hegemony space. Turn back immediately or face the consequences. Your people will be executed if you do not withdraw." The response came from Admiral Voss herself, broadcast on the same frequency so every species in the galaxy could hear it. "This is Admiral Sarah Voss of the Terran Defense Fleet. We reject your ultimatum. You have 72 hours to release all human prisoners unharmed. We know you are holding others besides Dr. Chen. Release them all, or face the full military might of humanity." Then came the part that made Zethran realize how completely they had misunderstood humans. "To any species currently allied with the hegemony, you have a choice. Stand with those who kidnap and torture innocent beings for scientific study, or stand aside and let us clean up this mess. We have no quarrel with anyone except those who harm our people." The message ended, but the damage was done. Within hours, the hegemony's long-range sensors detected something that had never happened in their 10,000-year history. 3 of their allied species were withdrawing their fleets from the defense zone. "They're abandoning us," whispered Counselor Moran. "They're being practical," corrected Zethran. "The humans just offered them a way to avoid a war that is not their fight. But our agreements mean nothing if we cannot protect our allies from retaliation. And based on what we're seeing, the humans have the capability to attack every world that stands against them." The human fleet had not stopped at the hegemony border. They had sent scout ships to map every allied world, every military installation, every supply depot. It was the most comprehensive intelligence operation the galaxy had ever seen, completed in less than a week. "How are they doing this?" demanded Counselor Thane. "Our projections showed human technology was generations behind our own." "Our projections were wrong," admitted Zethran. "We based our analysis on their civilian technology. We never considered what they might be capable of when threatened." The truth was becoming clear as more intelligence reports arrived. Humanity had been holding back. Their research vessels and trade ships used technology that was comfortable and reliable, but not their most advanced. When they mobilized for war, They deployed systems that the hegemony scientists could barely understand. "Sir," reported the communications specialist, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human fleet. They appear to be charging weapon systems unlike anything in our database." Zethron made a decision that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. Open a communication channel to the human fleet. Admiral Voss's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined, standing on the bridge of her flagship with Earth visible through the window behind her. "Hi, Counselor," she said, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing. "I assume you're calling to discuss the release of our people. Admiral Voss, you must understand. The hegemony exists to maintain order. Your species develops too quickly. You are unpredictable. If we simply release our subjects, how do we know you will not become a threat to other species?" Voss was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried an unmistakable edge. "Counselor, let me explain something about humans. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We don't want to rule other species. We just want to explore, learn, and live in peace. But there's one thing we will never tolerate. And what is that? Anyone who hurts our people." The screen shifted to show the human fleet. Row after row of ships stretching beyond the visual horizon. And behind them, more ships were arriving every hour. "This is not our entire fleet, Counselor. This is not even half of our military capability. Humanity has been exploring space for 3 centuries. We have colonies and systems you've never heard of. We have research stations in regions you consider empty. We have more ships, more resources, and more determination than you can imagine." Zethron felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. "But here's what you really need to understand," Voss continued. "Every human in this fleet is a volunteer. Every ship captain chose to be here. Every engineer, every pilot, every soldier in this armada is here because they believe that no one should be allowed to kidnap and torture innocent people." The display changed again, showing images that made several counselors recoil in shock. Scenes from inside the prison facility where Marcus Chen was being held. The aliens had been broadcasting their experiments, never imagining that humans could intercept and decode their transmissions. "You've been studying Dr. Chen for 3 months, Voss said, her voice growing colder, testing his endurance, pushing him to his limits, treating him like a laboratory animal, and you've been broadcasting it. How did you? We've been listening to everything. Every transmission, every data packet, every casual conversation between your guards. Did you really think we would approach without understanding exactly what you've been doing to our people?" The full scope of their mistake became clear to Zethron. The humans had not just detected the hegemony's signals. They had broken their encryption, analyzed their technology, and studied their tactics. While the hegemony had been focused on studying one human, humanity had been studying them. "You have 68 hours remaining," Admiral Voss said. "After that, we will come and take our people back. And we will make sure this never happens again." The transmission ended, leaving the Hegemony Council in stunned silence. "What are our options?" asked Counselor Veltar. Zethron studied the tactical displays. The human fleet was positioned to attack not just the prison facility, but every major hegemony installation within 50 light years. Their ships carried weapons designed specifically to counter hegemony technology. Most disturbing of all, they had somehow developed countermeasures to every defensive system the hegemony possessed. "We can fight," he said slowly, "but we will lose." "Then what do you recommend?" Zethron was quiet for a long time. Finally, he made the most difficult decision of his long life. "Prepare to release the human prisoners. All of them, sir. And send a message to all allied species. The Hegemony Council formally recognizes that we have made an error in judgment regarding humanity. We recommend immediate diplomatic contact to prevent further escalation." As the orders went out across hegemony space, Zethron realized that everything was about to change. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had maintained order by being the strongest force in the galaxy. But humanity was not just strong. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were strong, and they were unified, and they remembered everything. The galaxy was about to learn a new rule. You could study humans, trade with humans, even argue with humans. But you never ever took their people, because when you did, they all came to get them back. Dr. Marcus Chen had always loved the quiet moments between star systems. The gentle hum of the research vessel's engines and the endless dance of distant suns made him feel peaceful. He was 43 years old and had spent most of his life studying alien life forms. Today was supposed to be just another routine collection mission to the Outer Rim worlds. Marcus sat in his small laboratory, carefully examining samples from the last planet they had visited. Strange purple crystals that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The scanner readings were unlike anything in the database. This discovery could change everything scientists knew about mineral formation in low-gravity environments. "Dr. Chen, we're approaching the next system," came the voice of Captain Sarah over the ship's communication system. "Should we begin the standard scanning procedures?" Marcus looked up from his work. The research ship Endeavour was small, carrying only a crew of 12 humans. They had been out here for 8 months, collecting samples and data from uninhabited worlds. It was peaceful work, the kind Marcus had always preferred. "Yes, Captain. Begin the scans. I'll be ready to deploy the collection drones in 20 minutes, Marcus replied, turning back to his samples. He never saw the ships approaching. The first sign of trouble was when the lights flickered. Then came the deep rumble that shook the entire vessel. Marcus grabbed his desk as equipment rattled around the laboratory. Emergency alarms began screaming through the corridors. "All hands to emergency stations. We are under attack." "Repeat, we are under attack." Captain Sarah's voice was tight with fear. Marcus had never heard those words before. Humans had been exploring space for over 200 years, and while they had encountered alien life, no one had ever attacked them. The galaxy was vast and mostly empty. There was room for everyone. He stumbled through the shaking corridors toward the bridge. Through the windows, he could see massive ships surrounding the Endeavour. They were nothing like human vessels. These ships looked organic, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like living tissue. "What do they want?" Marcus asked as he reached the bridge. Captain Sarah was frantically working at her control panel. "I don't know. They won't respond to any communication attempts. They just appeared and started firing some kind of energy weapon that's disrupting our systems." The ship shuddered again. The lights went out completely for a moment before emergency power kicked in. "Captain, they're sending a signal," reported Lieutenant Johnson from the communication station. "It's coming through now." A voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect English, but there was something wrong with the tone. It was too measured, too precise, like someone reading from a script. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. You will not resist. Your ship will be taken and your crew will be processed according to hegemony protocols." "Hegemony?" Marcus whispered. He had never heard that word before. Captain Sarah activated the ship's external speakers. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the Earth research vessel Endeavour. We are on a peaceful scientific mission. We mean no harm to anyone. Please explain why you are attacking us." The response came quickly. "Humans are a threat to galactic stability. Your species advances too quickly and cannot be controlled. You will be studied so that the threat you represent can be understood and contained." Marcus felt his blood run cold. They were not here by accident. These aliens had come specifically looking for humans. "Captain, weapons are offline. Engines are failing. They've used some kind of electromagnetic pulse that's shutting down all our major systems," reported the engineer. The alien ships moved closer. Marcus could see strange symbols carved into their hulls. 7 different types of ships, each with different markings. This was not one alien species, but several working together. "All crew to the escape pods," Captain Sarah ordered. "This is not a drill. Abandon ship immediately." Marcus ran back toward his laboratory. He had to save his research data. 20 years of work was stored in those computers. But as he reached his lab, he found the door sealed shut. The ship's emergency systems had locked down all non-essential areas. Through the laboratory window, he could see strange figures moving through space toward their ship. They wore bulky suits and moved with purpose. Boarding parties. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his personal communication device. It was a simple emergency beacon that all researchers carried. If he could get a signal out, maybe someone would know what had happened to them. His fingers worked quickly, entering a coded message. His location, the situation, and most importantly, the fact that multiple alien species were working together to hunt humans. He had only seconds before the aliens would detect the signal. The message transmitted just as the laboratory door exploded inward. 3 aliens in environmental suits stepped through the smoke. Marcus had never seen anything like them. One was tall and thin with 4 arms. Another was short and covered in what looked like scales. The third was roughly human-sized but moved in a way that suggested its joints bent differently than human joints. They moved toward him with purpose. Marcus raised his hands to show he was not armed, but they didn't seem to care. One of them raised a device that hummed with energy. "I surrender," Marcus said clearly. "I will not resist." The tall alien spoke in that same precise English. "Dr. Marcus Chen, human xenobiologist, age 43 standard years. You have been selected for extended study. You will come with us." They knew his name. They knew his profession. This was not a random attack. As the energy device activated and Marcus felt consciousness slipping away, his last thought was a hope that his message had gotten through. Someone needed to warn Earth that humanity was being hunted. When Marcus woke up, he was in a small metal cell. The walls were smooth and featureless except for a single panel that glowed with soft light. The air was warm and humid, and it smelled of chemicals he didn't recognize. He sat up slowly, checking himself for injuries. They had not hurt him during the capture, but he felt weak and dizzy. Whatever they had used to knock him unconscious was still affecting him. The cell was perhaps 3 meters square. There was a thin mat on the floor that seemed to serve as a bed, and a small alcove that he assumed was for waste. No windows, no visible door. The only sound was a soft humming that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Marcus tried to remember everything he could about the attack. 7 different ship designs, multiple alien species working together. They had called themselves the Hegemony. They knew details about him specifically. This was organized and planned. A section of the wall slid open without warning. 2 of the aliens from the boarding party entered. The tall four-armed one carried a device that looked like a medical scanner. The scaled one held what was clearly a weapon. "Dr. Chen," said the tall alien, "you will submit to medical examination. Do not resist, and you will not be harmed unnecessarily." "What do you want with me?" Marcus asked. "What is the Hegemony?" "The Hegemony is an alliance of 7 species dedicated to maintaining galactic order. Humans represent a dangerous variable that must be understood. You will help us understand." The medical scanner was unlike anything Marcus had seen. It projected a field of energy around his body, and he could feel it penetrating his skin. It was not painful, but it felt invasive and wrong. "Your species develops technology at an unprecedented rate," the alien continued while the scan ran. "In less than 300 years, you have gone from simple agriculture to interstellar travel. Most species require thousands of years for such advancement." "That's what we do," Marcus said. "We learn, we adapt. We solve problems. It's not a threat to anyone. It is a threat to stability. Rapid change creates chaos. Chaos leads to conflict. Conflict threatens all civilized species." The scanning device made a series of beeping sounds. The tall alien studied the readings with obvious interest. "Fascinating. Your cellular structure shows remarkable adaptability. Your brain chemistry indicates high stress resistance. Your muscle density suggests unusual physical endurance for a species that evolved on a moderate gravity world." Marcus realized with growing horror that they were not just scanning him. They were studying him like a laboratory specimen. This was not going to be a short captivity. "Where are my crewmates?" he demanded. "They have been processed according to protocol. Some have been released to carry word back to your homeworlds. Others have been retained for comparison studies. You have been selected for comprehensive analysis." The aliens finished their examination and left without another word. The wall sealed itself, leaving Marcus alone with the terrible understanding of his situation. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Earth had no idea that one of its children was being held captive by an alliance of alien species that saw humanity as a threat to be studied and contained. But Marcus had gotten one message out. Somewhere in the vast communications network that connected human worlds, a small signal was making its way toward Earth, a signal that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. When one of them was threatened, the others did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They acted, and they remembered everything. 3 months after the Endeavor disappeared, Marcus Chen's emergency signal finally reached Earth. The message was weak and fragmented, picked up by a deep space monitoring station orbiting Neptune. Most of the data was corrupted, but the core information was clear, enough to make Admiral Sarah Voss stop breathing. "For a full 10 seconds, run that again," she ordered the technician. The young man's hands shook as he replayed the signal. "Dr. Marcus Chen, Research Vessel Endeavor. Coordinates follow. Multiple alien species. Organized attack, humans being hunted. Require immediate assistance." Admiral Voss had been in charge of Earth's defense fleet for 15 years. She had never heard anything like this. Humans had been exploring space for centuries. They had found life on dozens of worlds, but it was always simple life. Plants, bacteria, small animals. Nothing intelligent. Nothing that could build ships and organize attacks. "Get me the Terran Defense Council," she said. "Emergency session. Now." Within 6 hours, representatives from every human world were gathered in the council chambers on Luna. The room buzzed with worried conversations. Most of them had never met in person before. Emergency sessions were rare. Admiral Voss stood before the massive display screen showing Marcus's last known location. 3 months ago, Dr. Marcus Chen and his research team were attacked by unknown alien forces. The attackers identified themselves as something called the Hegemony. They specifically targeted the vessel because it carried humans. Silence filled the room. Counselor Williams from Alpha Centauri was the first to speak. "Admiral, are you certain this message is authentic? The implications are staggering." "Yes, I know." Admiral Voss activated another display. "We've confirmed the Endeavor's disappearance. We've also discovered something else." The screen showed a star map with several highlighted systems. Red dots marked locations throughout human space. In the past year, we've had 7 research vessels go missing in deep space. We assumed they were accidents. Equipment failures, navigation errors, natural disasters. But if we look at the pattern, the red dots formed a rough circle around the outer edges of human territory. "They're watching us," whispered Counselor Patel from New Mumbai. "They've been watching us." Admiral Voss nodded grimly. "We believe Dr. Chen's vessel was not the first to be taken. It was just the first to get a warning signal out." Counselor Zhang from Mars stood up. "What do we know about this hegemony? What do they want?" "According to the intercepted communications, they view humans as a threat to galactic stability. Our rapid technological development concerns them. They want to study us to understand how to contain us." The room erupted in angry voices. The idea that aliens were hunting humans like specimens was beyond anything they had imagined. "Order," shouted Counselor Williams. "What are our options?" Admiral Voss had been preparing for this question. "We can attempt diplomatic contact. Send messages explaining our peaceful intentions. Try to negotiate for the return of our people." "And if diplomacy fails?" asked Counselor Zhang. "Then we prepare for war." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Humanity had not fought a real war in over 100 years. There were occasional conflicts between colonies, but nothing like what the Admiral was suggesting. "Admiral," said Counselor Patel carefully, "we don't even know how many of them there are. We don't know their technology level. We don't know anything about their capabilities." "That's correct. But we know something more important. They have our people, and we don't leave our people behind." Over the following weeks, Earth's most advanced intelligence networks worked around the clock. Every deep space sensor was retargeted toward the coordinates from Marcus's message. Long-range scouts were dispatched to gather information. What they found changed everything. The first scout ship to reach the area transmitted back images that made hardened military officers sick to their stomachs. A massive installation on a lifeless world, clearly artificial, clearly designed for one purpose. It was a prison. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the intercepted alien broadcasts. The signals were not encrypted. The aliens apparently did not believe humans had the technology to intercept their communications. The translations revealed the true scope of what was happening to Marcus Chen. "Subject continues to show remarkable resilience," read one transmission. "Subjected to temperature extremes that would kill most species. Subject adapted within 48 hours. Physical stress tolerance exceeds all projections," read another. "Subject maintained consciousness during procedures that render most sentient beings catatonic. Psychological pressure techniques ineffective. Subject shows signs of active resistance rather than submission." Admiral Voss read the reports in her private office, her hands clenched into fists. They were torturing Marcus Chen. Not for information, not for any practical purpose, but to study human endurance. He was being treated like a laboratory animal. The final transmission was the one that made her decision. Recommend extending study period indefinitely. Subject's survival capabilities provide valuable data on human military potential. Continue current procedures. Admiral Voss walked to her window and looked out at the Earth below. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. 7 billion humans living their lives in peace. unaware that one of their own was being systematically tortured by aliens who saw them as a threat to be studied. She activated her communication system and sent a message to every human world. Every colony, every research station, every mining operation in space. This is Admiral Sarah Voss, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. I am declaring a state of emergency. All human military forces are hereby placed under unified command. All civilian vessels are to report to the nearest military station for conversion to support roles. All research and development projects not related to defense are suspended immediately. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within days, messages were pouring in from across human space, not just from military units and government officials, but from ordinary people. Farmers on agricultural worlds volunteered to increase food production to feed military forces. Engineers from the outer colonies offered to retool their factories to build weapons. Even the independent traders and asteroid miners, who usually avoided any contact with Earth's government, sent word that they were ready to help. But it was the message from the research community that surprised Admiral Voss the most. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, Marcus Chen's former colleague, sent a personal transmission. Admiral, Marcus once told me that the universe was like a vast library, and we were just learning to read. But there's one thing he never understood about humans. We don't just read. When someone tries to destroy our books, we burn down their library. Within 6 weeks, something unprecedented in human history was happening. Every colony, every corporation, every government was working toward the same goal: the rescue of one man. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned battleship Terra's Fury and watched as the largest fleet in human history assembled around her. Over 3,000 vessels, from massive warships to converted cargo haulers, all crewed by volunteers who had dropped everything to be part of this mission. Admiral, reported her communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the alien facility. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was the same precise, emotionless tone that Marcus had heard during his capture. Human fleet, you will withdraw immediately. Your approach to hegemony space is an act of aggression. Your people are being treated according to established protocols. Any attempt at rescue will result in the termination of all human subjects. Admiral Voss activated the ship's external transmitters. Her response would be broadcast not just to the aliens but to every human vessel in the fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Voss of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are coming for our people. You have 72 hours to release them unharmed. If you do not comply, you will learn something about humans that your studies apparently missed. And what is that? Came the alien response. When you hurt one of us, you face all of us. The transmission ended. Around the massive fleet, 3,000 human crews made final preparations for what was about to become the galaxy's first lesson in what happened when humanity was threatened. In his cell on the alien prison world, Marcus Chen looked up at the ceiling and smiled for the first time in months. He could not hear the radio transmissions, could not see the approaching fleet, could not know that Earth had received his message. But something deep in his mind, some instinct that had kept humanity alive through millions of years of evolution, told him that his people were coming. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had one characteristic their studies had not anticipated. They remembered their own, and they never ever left anyone behind. 6 months after Operation Homecoming, Dr. Marcus Chen stood in his garden on Earth, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The physical wounds from his captivity had healed, but the memories remained sharp. He touched the small scar on his wrist where the aliens had implanted their monitoring device, a reminder of 3 months that had changed everything. His peaceful morning was interrupted by the soft chime of his communication device. Admiral Voss's face appeared on the small screen, smiling despite the early hour. Dr. Chen, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all, Admiral. I was just enjoying the quiet. I wanted you to be the first to know. The Galactic Assembly has officially recognized the Chen Doctrine. Marcus set down his coffee cup. The Chen Doctrine was something he had never asked for, never wanted. It was Earth's formal declaration that any harm to human civilians would result in immediate military response. What does that mean exactly? It means the galaxy has agreed to our terms. Any species that attacks humans will face the consequences. More importantly, it means we've established a precedent that no species should be hunted or enslaved for scientific study. Admiral Voss's expression grew more serious. Marcus, there's something else. We've been monitoring communication networks across the galaxy. Do you know what we've found? I'm afraid to ask. Requests for help. Dozens of species have sent messages asking for human assistance in dealing with their own problems. Pirates, slavers, aggressive neighbors. They've seen what we did to the hegemony, and they want us on their side. Marcus was quiet for a moment. And how are we responding? Carefully. We're not interested in becoming the galaxy's police force, but we are interested in making sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else. The Admiral's image shifted to show a star map. Red dots marked human monitoring stations throughout what had once been hegemony space. Green dots showed new research facilities where human and alien scientists work together. We've established the Galactic Protection Protocol. Any species can request human intervention if they're being attacked or enslaved. We investigate, and if we find evidence of genuine oppression, we respond. Respond how? The same way we responded to the hegemony. We don't destroy. We don't conquer. We fix the problem. Marcus understood. Humanity had discovered something important about themselves during the crisis. They were not just explorers or researchers. They were protectors. When faced with genuine evil, they did not negotiate or compromise. They acted. Admiral, I've been thinking about something. The aliens who captured me, they were terrified of human unpredictability. They thought we developed too fast, changed too quickly. And what if that's exactly what the galaxy needs? Admiral Voss smiled. Explain. Every other species they showed me followed predictable patterns. They developed technology slowly, expanded carefully, always maintaining the status quo. But humans don't do that. We adapt, we improvise. We find new solutions to old problems. The hegemony saw that as a threat. But what if it's actually a gift? Marcus walked to his window and looked up at the sky, where he could see the faint outline of Luna Station. Construction crews were working around the clock to build new ships, not for war, but for exploration and protection. I've been reading the reports from our new research partnerships. Human scientists working with alien researchers have made more discoveries in 6 months than either group made in the previous decade. Because we think differently. Exactly. We approach problems from angles they never considered. And when we work together, we find solutions that neither group could find alone. Admiral Voss leaned forward. Marcus, what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe this was meant to happen. Maybe humanity needed to be pushed to reveal what we're really capable of. And maybe the galaxy needed to see that there's more than one way to solve problems. The hard way. When necessary, yes, but also the human way. We don't give up. We don't abandon our own, and we don't accept that bad things have to happen just because they always have. The conversation was interrupted by another chime. Admiral Voss checked her display. Marcus, I have to go. We've just received a distress signal from the Andromeda system. Looks like another species is being enslaved for scientific study. What's the response? 300 ships are already en route. We should have the situation resolved within a week. Marcus smiled. Admiral, can I ask you something? When you were preparing for Operation Homecoming, did you ever doubt we would succeed? Admiral Voss was quiet for a moment. Marcus, let me tell you something about humans that the hegemony never understood. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the smartest. We're not the most advanced. Then what are we? We're the species that remembers. Every kindness, every cruelty, every person who helped us, and every enemy who tried to harm us. We remember it all, and we're the species that always comes back for our own. After the call ended, Marcus sat in his garden for a long time, thinking about the changes that had swept across the galaxy. The hegemony no longer existed as a unified force. Some of their member species had joined the new Galactic Protection Protocol. Others had withdrawn to their home systems, content to avoid human attention. But the most important change was not political or military. It was philosophical. For the first time in galactic history, there was a species that would respond to injustice not with negotiation or compromise, but with action. Humanity had established a simple principle. Bad things should not be allowed to happen to good people, and if they did happen, there would be consequences. Marcus's peaceful morning was interrupted one more time by the arrival of a small transport ship. He watched it land in the field behind his house and smiled when he saw who emerged. Dr. Elizabeth Warren walked across the garden, carrying a bottle of wine and a broad smile. Marcus, I hope you don't mind the surprise visit. Elizabeth, it's wonderful to see you. What brings you to Earth? I wanted to tell you in person. The International Science Council has approved your proposal. Marcus felt his heart skip. The Deep Space Research Initiative? All of it. 50 new research ships crewed by joint human-alien teams. We're going to explore regions of the galaxy that no one has ever visited. Even after everything that's happened? Elizabeth sat down across from him and opened the wine. Marcus, what happened to you was terrible. But it also showed the galaxy something important about humanity. We don't just survive. We protect others. And they trust us to do that? Look around you. Elizabeth gestured toward the sky where the lights of dozens of ships were visible in the morning twilight. We're receiving more requests for partnership than we can handle. Species that have been isolated for centuries are asking to work with human researchers because they know we'll protect them. Because they know we'll protect anyone who needs protection. Marcus poured himself a glass of wine and raised it in a toast. To the galaxy learning that humans remember everything. Elizabeth raised her glass. To the galaxy learning that humans never leave anyone behind. As they drank, a new ship appeared in the sky above them. Not a warship, but a research vessel heading out toward the edge of known space. It carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens, united by curiosity and protected by the knowledge that if anything happened to them, humanity would come. The galaxy had learned its lesson well. You could study humans, trade with humans, work with humans, even argue with humans, but you never ever harmed them. Because when you did, they all came to get their people back, and they brought enough friends to make sure it never happened again. In the depths of space, monitoring stations maintained their silent watch. Early warning systems scanned for signs of aggression. Research teams explored new worlds under the protection of the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. And somewhere in a small research facility on the edge of human space, a plaque was mounted on the wall with a simple inscription, Dr. Marcus Chen, xenobiologist, explorer, survivor. His courage under fire saved not just himself, but established the principle that no sentient being should ever be enslaved for scientific study. When one human was threatened, all humanity responded, never again. The galaxy had a new rule now, written not in treaties or agreements, but in the memory of every species that had witnessed humanity's response to injustice. You could hurt a human, but you couldn't hurt humanity, and the difference between those two things was everything. The 72 hours passed without a response from the hegemony. Admiral Sarah Voss stood on the bridge of Terra's Fury as the countdown reached 0. Around her, 3,000 human vessels waited for the order that would change galactic history forever. Admiral, reported her tactical officer, all ships report ready. Weapons are charged, shields are up, and boarding teams are standing by. Voss looked at the display showing the hegemony prison facility. Somewhere in that complex, Marcus Chen and dozens of other humans were being held captive. The aliens had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. All ships, this is Admiral Voss, execute Operation Homecoming. Bring our people home. What happened next was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human fleet did not charge forward in a reckless assault. They did not begin with massive weapons bombardment. Instead, they did something that made the hegemony commanders realize how completely they had underestimated their enemy. They disappeared. One moment, 3,000 human ships were visible on every sensor. The next moment, the entire fleet had vanished from all detection systems. Impossible, whispered Counselor Thane from the command center on Kethvar. Ships that large cannot simply hide, but they had. Using technology that combined human innovation with techniques learned from studying captured hegemony equipment, the human fleet had become effectively invisible to alien sensors. The first sign of their presence was when the prison facility's defensive systems began shutting down one by one. We're losing power to the outer defense grid, reported a hegemony technician. Weapons platforms are going offline. Communication systems are failing. High Counselor Zethron watched in growing horror as the facility's defenses were systematically dismantled. The humans were not destroying anything. They were taking control. How are they doing this? Demanded Counselor Veltar. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elizabeth Warren's voice filled the command center, transmitted on the facility's own communication system. Hello, counselors. This is Dr. Warren of the Human Research Division. While you've been studying our biology, we've been studying your technology. We know how your systems work better than you do." "This is impossible," sputtered Counselor. "Myron, our security systems are impenetrable. Your security systems were designed to keep out enemies who think like you," Warren replied calmly. "But humans don't think like you. We don't follow your patterns. We don't use your strategies. We solve problems in ways your programmers never considered." As if to prove her point, the main doors of the command center opened. Human soldiers in advanced combat armor walked in calmly, their weapons trained on the stunned aliens. "Please remain seated," said the squad leader politely. "We're here for our people, not to harm anyone. Cooperate and no one gets hurt." Across the prison facility, similar scenes were playing out. Human Special Forces teams moved through the complex with precision that spoke of detailed planning and perfect intelligence. They knew exactly where every prisoner was held, where every guard was stationed, where every security system was located. In his cell, Marcus Chen heard the sound of energy weapons cutting through the wall. He stood up, hardly daring to hope as a section of the metal barrier fell away. A figure in human military armor stepped through the opening. The helmet retracted, revealing the face of a young woman Marcus had never seen before. "Dr. Chen, I'm Lieutenant Sarah Kim, Terran Marine Corps. We're here to take you home." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. After 3 months of captivity, of pain, of wondering if Earth even knew what had happened to him, his people had come. "How many ships?" he asked as Lieutenant Kim helped him toward the breach in the wall. 3,000, sir, and more on the way." 3,000? Marcus stopped walking. "For us? Sir? With respect, Earth doesn't negotiate with kidnappers. We don't leave our people behind. And we really don't like it when someone tortures our scientists." As they moved through the facility, Marcus saw the full scope of the operation. Human teams were not just rescuing prisoners. They were documenting everything. Recording the torture chambers, copying the research data, cataloging every crime that had been committed. "What's going to happen to the aliens?" Marcus asked. "That depends on them, sir. The Admiral has made it clear that we're not here for revenge. We're here to make sure this never happens again." But the prison facility was only the beginning. Across hegemony space, the human fleet was demonstrating capabilities that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. Human ships appeared in orbit around hegemony worlds. But they did not attack cities or kill civilians. Instead, they did something far more devastating. They turned the aliens' own technology against them. "Sir, we're receiving reports from all sectors," announced the communications officer in the Hegemony Command Center. "Human forces have taken control of our primary shipyards." "What do you mean, taken control?" demanded Zethran. "They've shut down all construction operations. Our ships are being retrofitted with human technology." "They're not destroying our fleet, sir. They're converting it." The reports kept coming. Communication networks seized and reprogrammed. Defense platforms reactivated under human control. Supply lines redirected to support human operations. The humans were not conquering the hegemony. They were absorbing it. "This is systematic," realized Counselor Thane. "They planned every detail of this operation." Admiral Voss's voice came through the communication system. "Counselors, this is your final warning. Order all hegemony forces to stand down immediately. We have no desire to harm anyone, but we will not allow any resistance to the rescue of our people." "Admiral," Zethran replied. "What are your terms?" "No terms. No negotiations. You kidnapped and tortured our people. Now you face the consequences." "And what are the consequences?" "You're going to learn what happens when you threaten humanity." Over the following days, the galaxy watched in amazement as the human fleet systematically dismantled the hegemony's power structure. But they did it in a way that no one had expected. They did not destroy worlds or kill populations. Instead, they installed monitoring systems that would prevent any future aggression. They established bases that could respond instantly to any threat against human civilians. They created a network of early warning systems that would detect any organized effort to hunt humans. Most importantly, they made it clear that this was not temporary. "Attention all species," came Admiral Voss's broadcast to the galaxy. "Humanity has no desire to rule over others. We want to explore, learn, and live in peace, but we will not tolerate attacks on our people. From this day forward, any aggression against human civilians will be met with the full military response of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have demonstrated our capabilities. Do not test our resolve. The message was received across hundreds of star systems by thousands of different species. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted permanently, but the most important message was sent to a small research station on the edge of human space, where Dr. Marcus Chen was finally receiving proper medical care. "Dr. Chen," said Admiral Voss via video link, "on behalf of Earth and all human worlds, I want you to know that your sacrifice was not in vain. Because of your courage in sending that warning signal, we were able to respond. Because of your endurance during captivity, we learned what we were facing." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, did we have to burn down half the galaxy to rescue me?" Voss smiled grimly. "Dr. Chen, we didn't burn anything down. We built something new. A galaxy where no one will ever again think they can kidnap and torture innocent people without consequences. And if they try, then they'll learn what you already know. Humans don't abandon their own. Ever." In the depths of space, the human fleet maintained its positions around former hegemony worlds, not as conquerors but as guardians. The galaxy had learned a new rule that would govern interstellar relations for generations to come. You could trade with humans. You could negotiate with humans. You could even argue with humans, but you never ever took their people, because when you did, they all came to get them back. And they brought enough firepower to reshape the galaxy.